We thought we would just take a quick kind of like not even memory lane because it's not even really our memories. So we just wanted to talk about retired numbers because I think none of us know the other team's retired numbers. So I thought we could go through those quick. I don't think we need to list every one because the Tigers have been around for an eternity and they have quite a bit. Um, so I mean, we can pick highlights, lowlights, who maybe shouldn't have a retired number, who's maybe a little overrated. Yeah, does anyone? I have the baseball reference page up. I'll show that up in a sec. But does anyone want to go first and really chant for their team?
I'll go first real quick, because
Kansas
this will
City.
be quick. Um, Royals have three retired numbers. They obviously have not been around as long as other teams in this division, and the three retired numbers are number five of George
Yep.
Brett, which is obvious. Number 10, which is Dick Hauser, who was not a player of the Royals. You're not going to find him by scrolling along
Where
this
is this?
list of players. He was the Royals manager when
Oh,
they won the World Series in 1985. 2 years later, he passed away
oh,
of brain cancer. He was very short-lived Royals manager, but he passed away very quickly after the Royals won the World Series, and so they retired his number as a result of that. And then the last retired number is Frank White, who was the longtime Royals second baseman, and you'll
hmm.
find him after Alex Gordon on this top 24 all-time players, Eric.
Yeah, there he is.
Um, Played many years for the Royals. Won 8 Gold Gloves as the Royals' second baseman, and is really an all-time great Royal. I think that nowadays his stature as a Royal has kind of fallen a little bit because he is now the Jackson County executive,
Oh,
and he has become a Royal Stadium villain in the past couple years, where a lot of people have not been a big fan of the way that he has acted during this whole Royals want a new stadium saga. So that's those are the Royals
interesting.
retired numbers.
Um,
Obviously, Jackie Robinson. I think that we can expect very soon in the future we will see the number four of Alex Gordon retired by the
really?
Kansas City Royals. I do. I think so. I think they're going to retire number four,
Hmm.
and I think we will also see number 13 retired by the Royals within the next couple of within the next 10 years or so after Salvi retires. But the reason I thought about this topic is that the Royals kind of have two interesting situations when it comes to future retired numbers.
Right.
And right now, the number 29 is no longer in circulation by the Royals. It's not retired, but they don't give it out anymore. And that number was worn by Dan Quisenberry
Mm-hmm.
and Mike Sweeney, two all-time Royals greats, obviously.
Yep.
And it's kind of a weird situation because you wouldn't maybe necessarily retire that number for one of them on their own, but the fact that both of them wore that number, it's kind of like, can you retire a number for two players?
Yeah, the
Can you
Hmm.
Yankees have.
retire number can you retire number 29 and just say this is for both Mike
Mhm.
Sweeney and Dan Quisenberry?
Yeah.
I mean,
The
I
Yankees have
think
done it.
yeah, I was just gonna say the Yankees kind of doing
Yeah.
that.
Do it. They've done it with a couple players.
A different sport, but the Lions have done that.
I was thinking of Mariano Rivera. Who were you thinking
of? It's
that's
Yogi Berra.
kind of different.
Well, Yogi Berra, and then the guy that played immediately before Yogi was also a Yankees Hall of Famer, so they retired both of them together. It's like
I did not know that. Wow.
Yeah. So, but yeah, that number 29 is no longer in circulation for the Royals. It's no longer given out, which I find interesting. So, along those lines, I want to suggest that the Royals also retire the number 6, because the number 6 was worn by both Willie Wilson and Lorenzo Cain.
Mm-hmm.
Both of them were center fielders for the Royals. Both of them are World Series winners. Both of them have great Royals careers. Both of them are very similar-ish players. And to this year, on opening day, they both threw out a co-first pitch.
Oh, that's fun.
And my friend David, who went to opening day with me, he's a Cardinals fan. He turned to me and he said, "Are those guys? Are they like father and son or something?" And I was just like, "No, they're just two Royals players who were center fielders on the Royals World Series winning teams who happened to wear number 6."
Sure. So before we get off that, can we know, like, does Kyle Manzardo know who his dad is? Because I suspect that Dan Quisenberry may be in the running.
Probably more like a grandpa at this point.
That's probably not wrong. But
I like who's that 4 over from where you're at with those glasses? Those are what?
That's Paul Splittorff.
I thought that was
That's Paul Splittorff.
Jeffrey Dahmer.
Yeah, those are Jeffrey Dahmer glasses.
So Paul Splittorff actually has a really sad story. Dennis Leonard too. There's some great mustaches on that list right there. Paul Splittorff actually has a really sad story. He was a Royals pitcher mainly during the 70s, and he was a Royals like pregame announcer. He did like the pregame show for the Royals. And he was actually someone who lived in Kansas City like full time when he was with the Royals. He was a Royals broadcaster, and randomly during like 2011, they announced that he had cancer.
Oh.
And then like 2 weeks later, he died.
Oh.
So he was just continuing to work right up until, he passed away. But he's someone who I have a lot of respect for, because I always thought he was a great broadcaster for the Royals.
Yeah.
But he has a pretty sad story. And then also, I mean, those glasses. I mean, can we talk about the 1970s by just showing someone a picture of him?
That's all you need. I feel like every team had a couple of those guys with those glasses.
I have those
glasses.
That's
just what everyone wore. Yeah. Like I watch Forensic Files a lot, but it's like mostly made in like the 90s or early 2000s, and it's like, but it's like everyone is wearing those glasses. Like no one had anything. No one had any fashion sense, I guess.
Yeah, but anyway, that's my suggestion for the Royals is retire both 29 and 6 and have it be co-retired numbers.
Yeah. Oh, I'd hear that. Oh my God, no.
I wish I still had the stash. I kind of do.
I was about to say, just got to throw it out again.
You just plucked him out of 1985.
Anyone want to go for it? Go next.
I'll go because I have a few things I want to highlight /
Sure.
opinions I want to voice. Yeah, so Tigers have a little bit of a lot. In terms of, we got, Ty Cobb doesn't have a number. But all the top 5 guys in terms of WAR all have their numbers retired, which I think is nice in its own.
Yep.
Yeah. Let's see. Jim Leland's was the most recent retired, and I want to talk about him because he's now kind of a little bit in the last year. So the date is August 3rd. His number is retired, and then in typical Jim Leland fashion, he goes to the Tigers dugout and says, "Go get an effing win."
Yep.
And the Tigers proceed to walk off the Royals in extras and win that game, and then they go 36-16 and make the playoffs. So it's a little. So now he's a little bit more in Tigers lore because of that. I mean, go to the dugout and go get a fucking win. They win, so that's very fun. Jack Morris, and in terms of so two that I really think I don't know why these are retired. Willie Horton and Jack Morris. I don't know if there's a story for Willie Horton because if you look at him, he's a good player, but he wasn't like that great. And I feel like they retired Jack Morris's number because he was the broadcaster with us for a while. He's, if you go bottom right, second over, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, Willie Horton isn't even on the top list here.
Sure.
Yes. So I don't know why Jack Morris. I feel like we retired because he was partly because he was a broadcast for a while. He wasn't particularly.
He's in the
good.
Hall of Fame. Is the real.
Yeah, I guess, but we didn't retire his number when he went into the Hall of Fame. It was like after.
I would argue that his most famous, like, it's not. I don't even think it's really an argument. I bet he's more known for his one season with the Twins than he is for his career.
Well, he was on the '84 Tigers, so he won the World Series with us.
I think of him as a twin.
Yeah, and he only played 1 year, and he opted out.
That's crazy.
Yeah, but I think it's fun that we've got two managers. They're Sparky Anderson and Jim Leland. They are both primary, mostly managers with us.
The world's youngest, pre-Kate Upton, Justin Verlander.
Yeah. Yeah, and then in terms of numbers, yeah, that's an old picture. I don't know why they're using. I don't know why that picture shows up for Verlander.
Look at that young man.
He's very dapper.
Oh yeah.
Oh my god! Look at some of these guys in the black and white photos.
I was about to say,
Yeah,
this
these
guy, this guy just chewing both lips like
His each
that
round.
That guy looks like if you were to see like a poster for a Know the Signs of a Stroke PSA, like the way that like just one side of his face is completely different. He looks like he's about to have a stroke.
He looks like he's gonna spit out a hunk of tobacco, hit a home run, and then probably say 5 different slurs. So
You could really tell which generations went to war from these pictures.
Yeah,
the
Yeah.
1,000-yard stares and the black and white ones and all the smiles and the colored ones.
I like a Hank Greenberg. This looks very sad. Charlie Gehringer looks like he's gonna mess you up. But in terms of numbers, I think we'll be retired. I think Miggy, obviously.
Yeah.
We've joked for years. We know the exact spot on the wall that his number is going to go. Probably Verlander, if we're being honest, number 35. No one is currently wearing that number. Same for 24 for Miggy. Obviously, I mean, it's just a matter of time for him. As soon as he gets in the Hall of Fame first ballot, his number's going on there. The statue is probably already in design. And then this is a little bit of an interesting one, but so we have Ernie Harwell on there. He was the Tigers radio/TV broadcast guy for like 30 years or something. I think one day Dan Dickerson is going to be on there.
Sure.
Dan Dickerson, he's the current radio guy. He's been there since 2000, I think, so 25 years now. I think he's going to join Ernie Harwell on the wall there for retired numbers / just honored other category that we have. So yeah, Tigers have a lot of retired numbers. I think a couple of them don't necessarily need to be on there, but if a hit, we've got a lot of really good players in history, just over 100 years.
Yep.
So.
Coke bottle glasses, Sam. Are those your actual glasses, or just for the bit?
These are my backup glasses right here.
Okay.
So yeah, I have another pair of glasses that I wear to work most of the time. They're much smaller than this pair, but these are my backup pair of glasses that I just keep at home. So
very nice. I mean, Dan, you're missing the glasses.
If you have a pair of glasses, feel free to put them on.
This is
I'm
this
no
is your
Four
moment.
Eyes people.
How dare you? How
This
dare
is
Boo.
this is that moment where Dan has like a tiny little pair of like Harry Potter glasses that he puts on like while all of us are wearing our big like Coke bottle glasses.
Or he pulls out a pair of bifocals.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know I have a friend that owns a monocle, but I don't
There you
own
go.
any
Awesome.
glasses. So
I don't know. They
Give
still
it a
made
couple
them.
years, those will come back. Dan or Oren?
I'll take it.
Pythagorean.
I'll take it.
Got it. And, oh, actually, I had them pulled up. All right, the Evil Empire. Here they are.
There they are. That's them.
This is kind of sad, though. He's in a Cleveland hat. Oh no, that is a Chicago hat. I'm an idiot. I'm dumb. Ignore me,
no,
everyone.
a lot of C's over the years. He might have played for the at the time, whatever they were called at the time. He might have the Naps. I don't know. Nothing really.
Have you guys, by the way, I hate to interrupt you, Oren. Have you guys ever seen the clip of Luke Appling hitting the home run at the Old Timers game?
Oh yeah,
No.
No,
yeah.
I don't think I have.
It's pretty funny.
Yeah, I'll look for it while you're.
Cool.
Yeah, but I mean, as far as the guys that have played in our lives, the ones that at least I've watched on TV, got Knurko, Frank Thomas, Mark Burley. Those are really the only three. Harold Baines, his career overlapped with my life, but I was not cognizant for any of it. I guess if anything were to stand out here, Frank Thomas is already in the Hall of Fame. Paul Konerko, we love him. World Series hero, all that, nowhere near the Hall of Fame. Mark Burley, much more interesting case, and I know that's not really the topic of discussion here, but I really think Mark Burley should get in. He doesn't have very flashy numbers, but I think it was 10 years straight of 200 innings. Just his innings pitched alone is so crazy to see, especially in this day and age. That's one of those things where it'll be. It wouldn't surprise me if that never happens again, just because of how pitching has changed. But obviously, he's loved on the South Side, loved in Chicago, another World Series hero. So I can't think of any guys that I think should be up there that aren't. And there's definitely no one on the team now that will ever get there. There's a few guys that have played, a handful of games that you never know. Maybe they'll become a Hall of Famer with this.
You're
team,
not ready
with other
to
teams.
crown Chase Medroth yet?
Yeah, I think if anyone on this team gets into the Hall of Fame, and I would need to look at the ages again, but maybe Edgar Quero, if either him or Mydroth have to be the favorites, just because based on how much they've played and in terms of relative favorites. I mean, no one's a favorite to get into the Hall of Fame anywhere near this team, but
No.
How much of the love for Mark Burley is the fact that he pitched a perfect game?
there's like a three-headed beast when it comes to Burley. It's the perfect game, it's the between the legs play, and it's the World Series coming back into pitch after he was drinking beers in the clubhouse. Those very emblematic of Chicago, South Side, blue collar kind of grinder type ball. But that's a huge part of it. I mean, that's one of the reasons his legacy is so interesting, and that his Hall of Fame case is so interesting, because his numbers are borderline. He had some great moments, and it's such a unique baseball reference page. There are definitely much better pitchers you can find than Mark Burley, but it's tough to find a page that looks like this one, with the innings pitched and the consistency and the health every single year. It's insane.
I didn't realize he had that strong of a case.
Yeah, and I think
Is he still on the ballot?
I don't think he is. I think one day maybe he'll get in on a veterans committee thing.
Right.
But at the very least, that's kind of the more interesting parts. And then there's a bunch of guys from back in the day that none of us saw. So it's who cares?
Who's that guy on the bottom, on the right, the second with the big, no left of him? What's his face
Nelly
doing?
Fox.
Oh yeah, he's
Yeah,
not
they're,
retired. I think he's in the Hall of Fame only because he was, yeah, he is. Because before sabermetrics were around, he probably has a high batting average or something.
288.
For a career.
2,500 hits is probably what got him in. Bunch of runs. Interesting. All right.
There's one guy that I'm surprised not to see on there. Maybe he didn't play for the White Sox long enough, but Eddie Collins, very old timey guy, definitely played for other teams. So I don't know what what portion of his career, what percentage of it was with the White Sox. But I went back and looked through his baseball reference page the other day, and he was a absolute monster. So I'm not sure why they don't have him retired. We'll see here. I guess I'd assume it's because he didn't play enough with the White Sox.
Oh, yeah, 100. Well, who is he? Philadelphia. Oh,
He
he
was with the
played
White
20
Sox
with
for
the
a
White
lot.
Sox. He played 12 years.
Yeah, and look at his WAR by each year. He was an insane player
That's a
back in
nine
that.
spot.
I mean, his best years weren't with Chicago, but he was still really good in Chicago.
Yeah,
MVP
so it's like,
runners-up.
I mean, maybe it's just too late at this point, but I feel like he deserves it.
Right.
Nicknames
Eric-
cocky.
That was exactly what I was just about to say. Eric, his nickname is Hockey.
Can't hate it. Why am I
I mean, he should be. Look at his numbers,
Yeah, it's nuts.
and he's my height.
see? The
Hey,
impossible
don't
can
get cocky.
But
happen. God, Dan, how you feeling about who's in Cleveland? I don't even really know.
So I am a man of history, so we are going to dwell on the old timers here for a second.
Bring it on.
We'll start with number 3, Earl Averill, who was essentially the Indians, Cleveland's offensive leader in most things until the 90s.
Left,
is the best way I would describe it.
left,
First
up,
guy.
left.
Jesus.
Yeah,
oh, here
there
it is.
you go.
Got
There
it.
she is. All right. And still is the team all-time leader in runs scored and RBI to this day, and is like top 6 in most categories overall with a lot of the guys from the 90s. Somebody Jose Ramirez will be chasing in a lot of categories in the next few years. But yeah, Averill, in the time in the 30s when offense was up, he was the premier offensive player on the Indians. Him and Hal Trosky put together a pretty good offensive team that just could never get over the hump at that point in time. Next, number 5, Lou Boudreau, Indian shortstop in the 40s and 50s. Also player manager at the time. He was a player manager at like 25 years old, super young, and was the manager of the Indians the last time they won the World Series. So strong defensive shortstop, good hitter as well. I believe he led the league in WAR at least once. And so good ball player, but probably the biggest thing was being the manager of the 1984 team, or I'm sorry, 1948 team that won the World Series. Next up is number 14, Larry Doby. Larry Doby has the distinction of being the first African-American player to play in the American League.
Yep.
And also was quite good. I believe he was a 6-time All-Star.
No center fielder.
We have a Larry Doby Day here in Cleveland. I kind of lament the fact that that isn't a league-wide thing. But, he quality ball player as well as incredibly impactful to the history of the sport. The next 3 guys I'll kind of take in tandem because they're 3 pitchers that all pitch at about the same time and were of similar ilk. The headliner of them is number 19, Bob Feller, who for a long time was, probably the most famous Cleveland Indian of all. As a young phenom pitcher that came up in the 30s and was one of the best pitchers in baseball whenever he wasn't serving his country during World War II. Also was on the World Series team along with one of his teammates, which was Bob Lemon, number 21. Those 2 guys plus Mel Harder, 3 pitchers from years past that were have their numbers retired, number 18, number 19, and number 21. Between them is Frank Robinson, who Hall of Fame player, was not particularly good in his short time as a baseball player for the Cleveland Indians. However, has the distinction of being the first African American manager in the history of the sport.
Oh, sure.
He was also a player manager, and in that first game that he managed as the for the Indians, he hit a home run. So that's kind of his big moment here with the organization. And again, another guy that was super impactful to the sport at large. Was a manager for a really long time too. He was a manager still. He managed the Indians in the 70s. He was a manager in the 2000s for the Nationals, if I'm not mistaken. So, longtime baseball man. And then last up, I had to talk about the old timers because there's only one new timer here. That's Jim Thome, number 25. Hall of Fame first baseman / third baseman originally when he came up, and is, Indians all-time leader in home runs, hit 612 in total as a major leaguer, and is the one individual from the 90s teams that has made the Hall of Fame. I should rephrase that because like Eddie Murray did as well. But the one guy that was like homegrown in the 90s that made the Hall of Fame. So played for the Indians for 12 years in total, if you count the trade in 2011 where he had ended the season with the team. And is probably a big reason in why I'm an Indians fan / Guardians fan today. So those are the Indians' current / Guardians' current retired numbers. The one I'm going to contribute for future is obvious. It's Jose Ramirez. I think he could retire tomorrow and his number would be retired. Beyond that, we'll see, but definitely Jose. Probably a statue in his future, given the commitment he's made to the organization and wanting to be here, which I can't emphasize enough. We talk a lot about payroll and free agency and all that, and he made the point that he wanted to stay here. And even here in Cleveland, I don't think that gets talked about enough.
Right. How competitive would Cleveland be if he has not been in that lineup the last 5 years?
Yeah, he's always been the most consistent.
Remember when Yadier Molina left the Cardinals and they immediately became like a last place team?
That's probably a good comparison.
Can I ask about the fans' 5,855 sellouts?
Yeah. Absolutely. I should have talked about that. So in the 90s, the Indians broke the record for the most sold out games in a row. It was like, I forget the exact date, but sometime in June of 1995 through 2001, they sold out every home game.
Wow.
And that was at a time when the attendance of Jacobs Field at the time was several thousand more than it is now. It was 43,000. There's a lot that went into that, and not all of it's the Browns not existing probably helped. But it was also the best stretch of Indians baseball and potentially the history of the team too. So, and brand new ballpark. But yeah, that was the record for some time until the Red Sox broke it during the late 2000s. So that was a tribute that was done to the fans. 455 straight sellouts.
That's really cool, actually. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Do you think that Vizquel and Alomar would be on there if it wasn't for their post career?
Vizquel, yes. I think that's fair. Because I think of one, in order to have your number retired, I think one, you got to be prolific for the team, or you have to do something super impactful like Robinson did, or you need to be on the team for a long period of time. And Vizquel checks both those boxes. I really, really, really wish he hadn't done the allegedly foul things he did in his career, after his career.
He was one of my favorite players ever.
I love the argument of he's a Hall of Famer, but he's not. He's precluded because of what happened, in my opinion. And it goes to Burley. I think guys that are different in some form or fashion. Burley was a soft tossing left-handed pitcher. That to me is more memorable than another right-handed guy that was just really good for a really long time.
Mhm.
Same thing with Vizquel, where it was his defense. He could amaze you on any night with his plays. Anyway, that tangent aside, I think Vizquel would be. Alomar, I just don't think he played here long enough, to be honest with you. It was only 4 years, I think. So I just don't. He was a great ball player when he was here, but I think it's more so he just didn't put in the time in Cleveland to warrant that.
How many years was Manny on Cleveland?
He was here 7 years, 8 years, so kind of long enough. But I think there's just a little bit of. He was inducted into the team's Ring of Honor or whatever they call it. I forget what we call it here, but that was done last year. But he hasn't had his number retired. Again, I just don't think he was here long enough. The other one that kind of surprises me is Kenny Lofton, who, by the way, should be a Hall of Famer.
Yes.
But of those guys from the 90s, he would be the one that I think should be number retired, if anybody.
I'm glad you brought him up because I knew he was a journeyman, but I didn't realize he was Cleveland forever and then 1 year with literally everyone else.
Yeah.
Cleveland on 3 separate occasions too.
Yeah.
But yeah, 10 years in Cleveland and was arguably one of the best players in baseball for a good portion of that.
He's had some controversy too, though, right?
Has he?
Not that I'm aware of.
He's no longer in MLB The Show because of it, but I don't know what happened.
Oh.
How was he not signed to a longer term contract? It looked like it's a bunch of 1 year deals. It feels like that's the kind of guy that you think would have gotten signed up for longer.
Yeah. I mean,
Stuff happens, I guess.
And the thing was with Lofton, every team he went to, and there might be one counterexample, most of the teams he went to made the playoffs.
yeah.
He sent sexually explicit photos to a bunch of women in his company.
Oh.
Oh, I didn't know
Ah.
that.
No.
This
Well,
was in 2022, so it was recently.
I was
Yeah.
just about to say, in August 2022, Lofton was sued by a former employee of Lofton's investment company who claimed that he was fired by Lofton for complaining that Lofton had sent sexually explicit photos of himself to women in the company. That's according to Wikipedia.
Wonderful.
Well, then
Thanks.
there's also Albert Bell, who is low key very good for Cleveland, but he was also kind of just like, I don't think he did anything
But you know what?
bad other than just
Compared to some of these other guys, Albert
Yeah.
Bell was just a grumpy guy.
yeah,
I was he was just an a-hole.
Yeah, just a grumpy.
he just
just a
punched
grumpy
a
guy.
second baseman. Like, that's fine.
I'm sorry for the tangent, but he was on the Chris Rose rotation sometime in the last year or so. And Chris Rose asked him about so if you wouldn't have been a ball player, what do you think you would have done? And Albert Bell goes, well, I always really liked numbers. I think I could have maybe been like an accountant or something.
Okay.
And my vision of Albert Bell in a cubicle crunching some numbers, it's just hilarious to me.
That's funny.
Yeah.
It's a little
It's
bit
great.
like a Mr. Incredible when he goes undercover or
Yes.
under hiding. Yeah.
It's crazy to me how many of those Indians and Guardians players also played for the White Sox that are in their like Larry Doby, Jim Thome, Omar Vizquel, Albert Bell, Roberto Alomar,
Shoeless Joe.
Manny Ramirez played for the White Sox a little bit. Like the White Sox, Cleveland overlap is just so much, and I get that they've been around for so long, but it's still kind of blows my mind. We always get them 5 years after they're good.
One more guy from the 90s that could have his number retired someday, Sandy Alomar, 15.
Yeah,
Oh, sure.
In
Also
part
played for
because
the
he
White
played,
Sox.
also played for the White Sox. In part because of his play, but also he's been our first base coach for quite a while now. And I feel like has maybe turned down managing opportunities just to stay in the organization.
Mhm.
So
That's
I don't know how many first base coaches get their numbers retired, but I could see a lifetime achievement award type thing
Sure.
where he's been with the team for so long that
This is
that might be in his future.
this is going back to Albert Bell, but the reason his number isn't retired is because he was the benefit of that break-in where they stole his bat from the umpire, where a pitcher stole the bat from the umpire.
I don't
my
think it's
God,
that.
when the guys went through the air conditioning duct.
Also happened in Chicago. Jason
Yeah,
Grimsley.
yeah.
when
Oh, of
he
course.
replaced the bat. No, I think Bell was the first player to leave in the 90s, and this was back when fans had a much different opinion of free agents leaving in the offseason. I think it's that. I also think he just, with all the grumpiness, if you will, I think the organization was a little relieved to see him go at that point.
Yeah.
But he does have a positive relationship with the team now. He's been to spring training a number of times, so it's not all bad. But length of the time he was with the team and the complicatedness of his time here probably has more to do with it than anything.
Okay. Well, I think I'll move on to the Twins, unless you had anyone else you wanted to highlight, Dan.
I'm a little bit, and now that I think about it, I'm a little bit disappointed in all the foul things that the 90s Indians have done. But beyond that, thank you.
You got to go take a shower after this. You feel so dirty.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Trust me, I'll feel the same way in about 20 years about this era of the Chiefs.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
So for the Twins, they have it's not a complicated history. They just have a weird one because they're half Washington Senators, half Minnesota Twins. The Senators had Walter Johnson, who didn't have a number, but he's going to be by far the greatest player in franchise history if you choose to believe the Twins are the same thing as the Senators. But the numbers you would retire for the Twins are the ones that you would expect. Harmon Killebrew, all-time great slugger. Joe Mauer just got in the Hall of Fame, 3-time batting champion as a catcher. People can debate if he should have been a first ballot Hall of Famer or not. He's still in. I don't particularly care if you're on the first ballot or the 10th ballot. You're still going in the same room in the Hall of Fame. Pretty much for the Twins, they have a pretty high bar to retire the number, so do all the other teams. I'm not trying to say they don't, but there's really only 2 players that are not in the Hall of Fame that have their number retired. One was Kent Herbeck, who was a World Series hero, also has never pulled a person off of the bag once. I don't care what you say. It's blasphemy. He had a really nice, I think he was, where's Kent? He has to be up here somewhere. But I'll just click on his page. He was a good, solid first baseman, especially in like the 80s, early 90s. He retired, I believe, in 94 was his last season. He wasn't, in the 80s, it was a lot of pitching and defense, and he was a slap hitter for the Twins. And then Tom Kelly he won 2 World Series titles with them. He did so in his first year, and then his 4th year, and then don't look up the rest of his career with the Twins because the 90s were not kind to the Minnesota Twins at all. As far as like who's going to get their number retired next, it's going to be a minute. You can if whoever is going to get their number retired next, they will be in the Hall of Fame. So then you have to look at who's going to clear that bar. Yoan Santana is already off the ballot, but I could see him getting in like a one of those Veterans Committee things. He had probably the best peak of any pitcher in the 2010s. He had like a 3-year span. He should have done a clean sweep with the ERA title and just with the Cy Young. I mean, after that, it's really, I don't want to say no hope. If I want to give a controversial take, Kirby Puckett should have his number retired. He should be in the Hall of Fame, but he really didn't have. He should be much more of a borderline Hall of Fame player than a rubber stamp like this is the greatest of all time. He got in because he got hit in the face with a pitch and had to retire like the next year. He got glaucoma is what I think did him in, and then he ended up dying early. But not nice things have come out about Kirby since the 90s, but when you think of the Minnesota Twins, it's Kirby Puckett.
Mm-hmm.
Have I ever told you guys the story of the time my parents met Kirby Puckett?
Oh no.
What? Oh, please.
Do I want to know this?
This is a kind of odd story, but my parents in the 90s, before me or my sisters were born, had gone to a Royals game the night before against the Minnesota Twins, and it was like a weekend series. They went to like a Friday night game or whatever. And then the next day, they went to a mall in the Kansas City area to do some shopping. And as they were walking up to the mall, Kirby Puckett was standing like on the curb
Mhm.
outside the mall, like waiting to get picked up.
Oh.
And my mom went up to him and like started talking to him and was like, hey, I'm a big baseball fan, like blah blah blah. And apparently Kirby Puckett said to my mom, "How do you know who I am?"
Okay.
And my mom said, "You're Kirby Puckett."
Right.
Like
We
everyone
know.
knows who you are. Like it's not like he was some unknown,
Right.
and it's not like like he's a distinctive looking guy,
Yes.
like people would have known who he was. Um so my dad had the ticket stubs
Hmm.
from the previous night's game, just like in his wallet, and Kirby Puckett signed them for them.
Oh.
Um, and so, yeah, my parents have two Royals Kauffman Stadium ticket stubs signed by Kirby Puckett
Kirby
because
Puckett.
they
That's
ran
awesome.
into him. They ran into him at the mall.
I'll take a picture of it. I have a. I went through a phase where I wanted to collect autograph like baseball cards, and then so I tried collecting the 87, the two World Series teams. I got the 87 team done, so I do have a Kirby Puckett autograph, and then like obviously like all of them, but it's in the display, and I don't feel like getting it out right now because I'm lazy. Not that it's all that interesting. It's a card with a signature.
Right, we got to do that another day because I have so many good like from the division jersey and bat and autograph
Yeah.
cards.
Nice.
Deal. We'll write it down.
Show
in
and
the
tell. Show and tell is a good future subtopic.
I've got like nothing. I've got this bobblehead.
It's a nice
Something. It's something.